you mentioned a little bit on your radio show, but Illinois has some size that you haven't really seen yet this season. What is it like preparing for them, and how comfortable are you if you want to play both your 7-footers together?
Yeah, well, I think it's part of how we constructed this roster, right, is to have versatility and going against different teams. You know, Northwestern, we went smaller. They were smaller. Felt like we could have advantage by going smaller, and it worked out well for us. This is a game where, you know, although we had some success against them last year by being smaller at times, we're going to have to also play bigger at times. And so for us, bigger starts with, you know, Tilly, kind of Brandon or Amari and Devin, you know, being on the perimeter. That in general makes us bigger than we were. But yeah, you know, we want to give a look, you know, in practice, and we have to try to see, like, okay, how does it look with Yvonne and Tilly together? But you know, we'll see as the game unfolds.
How much have you been able to work that with those two?
Yeah, not very much.
Okay.
It's hard because when we go that way on one side of the ball, we're really small on the other side of the ball in practice, right? So it's challenging, but being able to execute, you know, offensive and defensive coverage is what we're focused on. We know we may not, when those two are together in practice, may not be going against two other 7-footers. We can't simulate that part, but just making sure that we're prepared to execute at a high level on both sides is the best we can do.
Aside from the size, what else about Illinois concerns you? They've obviously got some guys with some names that are difficult to pronounce, but they've played a lot of basketball and are playing at a pretty high level here.
Yeah, rebounding. Yeah, they're an elite rebounding team. It's an area for us where we've improved, but it's going to be a big part of the game. And they have a lot of guys. I think they've got 5 guys averaging double figures, so a lot of guys who are capable of having a big night. We've got to have a great connection defensively, but we have to finish plays. It's going to be critical to the game.
How much does this set up as for guys that haven't played Big Ten basketball before? Like, yeah, you played Northwestern, but like, here is size and rebound, all those things you're talking about. That's Big Ten basketball, right? They need to know that, and this is an early indicator, I imagine.
Well, I think it's an early big time opportunity, right? To go up against, you know, Big Ten size, but also a high level opponent. And I'm excited. I think our guys are really excited. It's great that, you know, we got a chance for that level of opportunity at home. But you know, it's one game, and our focus is on this one game and being the best we can absolutely be on both sides of the ball for as long as we possibly can within those 40 minutes. And that's what we're going to continue to focus on.
How do games like Notre Dame, Pitt, how do those experiences help you going into, it feels like every night in the Big Ten's a big night?
Yeah, well, the physicality, right, is important. Both those teams are physical teams. They have physical guys inside, you know. So maybe those teams didn't have, you know, the complete size, right, that Illinois has at any given time. But the physicality certainly was there. So that's part of it. And then being in close games, you know, you really at this point anticipate every Big Ten game, you know, across the conference is somehow going to come down to the wire. Obviously, that's not always the case, but you know, being in those close games, having to execute under high-level game pressure, the more you do that early on in the season, the better it benefits you as the season goes on.
How's Amari been like in terms of his trajectory from the beginning of the season until now? Has he been getting what you expected? Because I know you had high expectations of him going into the year.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I had high expectations for him, but certainly, you know, that it was going to be a process. And so I think he's continuing to get better and better. You've seen his production become more consistent, and you know, I see no reason, because of how he approaches every single day in practice, no reason to say that's not going to continue.
You got a huge game out of Brandon Noel. I think I asked you last week, we're going to get something out of him here, because he played 9 minutes and didn't score against Pittsburgh. And I heard you on the post-game show, you said you guys sat down and had a talk about these are the ways we need you to start contributing. And it looked like from the beginning of that game, I mean, he got started and never got stopped. I mean, he had one of his best games in his career.
Yeah, you know, Brandon's got a lot of experience, and he's got a great approach. He's really mature, and so we had a great, really just a high-level kind of player-coach conversation. And it was, I think we both, you know, knew what we needed to do and what he needed to be successful, and clarity was kind of the word that came out of it. We give guys a lot of freedom, you know, especially offensively in our system, and some guys need, you know, not necessarily more structure, but just a little more direction than others. And I think that was something that was, missing, and it took some time, to kind of figure that out to where he was able to express that, and I was able to see it. And so we talked through that, gave very specific areas we felt like he needed to be more aggressive, and kind of narrowed the scope for him a little bit, and it proved to be really beneficial. And as it got going, then it kind of opened up some more things for him. So he handled that with, again, when he came and we sat down after Pitt, it wasn't like, woe is me. It wasn't, hey, coach, it was, I think I can really help this team win. Good, because I agree. Okay, how do we do that together? And he, to his credit, unbelievable week of practice. Unbelievable week of practice, and I think he earned the right to play really well.
Bruce had double-double, helped account for almost half of your points. Just what's your thought, I guess, about how he's really embraced getting everybody involved? And, last year, if he didn't go out and get 24, 25 points, it was kind of hard to win without that. But this year, he's, getting everybody involved, and the win, was a complete team victory. I mean,
Yeah, well, Bruce has developed really with quite consistency. He's talented. I said this on the radio show. Like, when you talk about how hard he works, sometimes people say, well, that guy works really, really hard, and it's almost like a slight to their talent level. He's a really talented player too. And I think, he's really bought into how this roster was constructed, and he's bought into what this team needs from him. And there will be times where he's got to take over from a scoring standpoint. But what I like is he's taken over some games for us this year just from purely reading the game in a playmaking role. Sometimes that is for him to be aggressive. I thought he passed up a couple shots against Northwestern where I told him coming over, like, hey, you got to be aggressive to score there. But he also did a great job finding guys. And for us, having multiple guys on our team who can play make and kind of move him around has helped him with his efficiency, I think. So I like where his just kind of the way he's managing the game right now. I think he's doing it at a really high level, and his efficiency's off the charts. Obviously, double back-to-back games in two different types of ways is really impressive. Not a lot of players can do that. But he's really he's a special player.
Devin was having such a big game the game before against Pittsburgh. He was kind of scuffling in this game, in and out, and yet he gets back in there at the end and he makes a couple of just absolutely have-to-have
Huge
baskets to give you guys a lead that you're able to ride it out from there. Just how important was it for him to stay with the cause and stay involved and keep attacking? I mean, that was pretty remarkable, it seemed like.
Yeah, really impressive maturity from him, and I think it speaks to the growth he's made. And he wasn't playing, near the level he's capable of for majority of that game, but did he step up, down the stretch. And I called his number too, and I told him leading into it, he was frustrated. I said, stay with me, man, stay with me, like, we're going to need you, and he stayed ready. And I think that's his just desire to win and win for Ohio State kind of takes over in that moment, right? Where whatever happened up to that point, he knows that I really believe in him. And, I thought the way he stayed engaged throughout the course of the game, in spite of some of his struggles at times, was really impressive. And that's a sign of a high-level player, to where the flow of a game doesn't necessarily go your way. It doesn't mean you have to have a bad game. You can get out of that at any moment. And you will get out of it sooner rather than later if you have the right approach and mentality. And that's what he had. And, it was some big time plays for us down the stretch.
Coming out of that first game, and I know that was a unique team you played, defense was a big topic. How do you feel like you've grown? Where do you still feel like you need to get better in Big Ten play on that side of the ball?
You're talking about the first game of the season?
Yeah, just defense in general. I know we talked about it a lot after giving up 100 or whatever.
Yeah, I think we've come a long way. Certainly. And like I said after that, I don't think that first game of the year, regardless of who you play, should not be an indication of where you're at. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But, what we were able to do and what we've been able to do, really game after game is just focus on getting better in some specific areas. For us, it's rebounding. That's one. That's a constant. We're constantly working on that. We're going to work on it again today in practice. The next thing is executing our coverages. And when you have a new team, I think that's an ongoing process. We've made significant strides in that, in executing the coverages and the game plan. And then, for us, being able to utilize the versatility we have defensively helps. Like we were in multiple coverages against Northwestern. We gave them a lot of different looks defensively, and wasn't perfect by any means, but I thought our guys did a really good job. And the big thing in this league, you got to finish plays, and so we need to be more aggressive. Where an area of growth for us defensively is, and we did a better job of this against Northwestern. We got to force more turnovers. We're not we protect the rim with position, right? And we'll get in the way. You got to have great technique, but we don't have a roster built to make up for a ton of mistakes above the rim in blocking shots. But we can do it with early position and being connected on rotations and being more aggressive when the ball's being dribbled. And I think our guys did a great job with that.
You were talking about Devin a minute ago, and like the flow of the game and having some early issues and kind of battling through that to contribute late. What are some of those issues? Like what has maybe held him back in some of those moments where the game hasn't gone his way and you've had to kind of encourage him, like, stay with me?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's been a lot of really instances. Trying to think back throughout the course of the year where that might. I'm sure it's been a couple, but I think for him and really it's an adjustment for all our guys, because we have multiple guys who are capable of being explosive offensively, and so we have multiple playmakers on our team as well. But for guys individually, with the offensive firepower we have, I think when you maybe miss a few shots, like you just got to stay aggressive. You got to stay within what we're doing. Keep fighting for high shot quality, which this team has done. It's helped our efficiency, for sure. And for Devin, I think an area that he's got to consistently monitor is taking care of the ball, and kind of that balance between being really aggressive and keep plays with the physicality, but playing on balance and reading the crowds and the paint. And our guys are approaching this with great maturity and togetherness. And I think that's why, when a guy may struggle a little bit for a stretch, they're able to come out of it. Like Tilly was too. I mean, you look at, he's clearly, last couple games, hasn't played to the level he's capable of, but came in after, again, struggling for much of the game, hits big free throws, gets rebound, does some things really well down the stretch. So it's I think a theme within our team, not just exclusive for one guy. Their ability to keep fighting, stay engaged, and not turn in bad segments into a bad game, but just fight their way through it.
I did want to ask you about Tilly, but before Tilly, the three that Devin hit in the left corner there at the end of the game, like you said, kind of battling through maybe a tough game in some moments, but that just seemed like a big time moment for him, and maybe another sign that playing on the wing, you're playing to some of his strengths. His 3-point shooting is up, his overall production from an efficiency standpoint is up, but a big time shot like that, where you're on the road and you're trying to hold off a team, what did you see from him in that moment, and what does that say about where his game is starting to get to?
I think it says he's playing with a lot of confidence. Love that he didn't hesitate. It was the right read. At the end of the day, it was the right decision. And so he works on it. He works on his game. He spends a lot of time on his game. And, I think it speaks to his confidence and kind of where he's at as a player. And I love that. Love it.
And as far as Tilly, you mentioned the last couple of games haven't been the easiest for him. I know he's dealing with the foot injury, but how much has what he's struggled with on the court been injury related? How much is maybe playing high level competition consistently? What are you seeing from him these last couple of nights?
I think it's mostly injury related. I think the uptick in kind of overall competition is certainly a factor. It's part of us playing the type of non-conference schedule we want to play, and this year's unique because we got a game we typically would have had before Big Ten play we have now in February. Right. But getting guys who come from the mid-major level to the high major level reps in those moments is important. But I think mostly to blame is he's dealing with a nagging kind of injury that he's getting better. We didn't have a setback in the Northwestern game. We made progress that week. He's not at 100% yet, but we're making progress. He's working really, really hard to get back there. But it's also, kind of life in the Big Ten. where you're not going to be at 100%. Like no one is at this point. And so it's an adjustment, but he's going to break through. He's going to break through in a big way here real soon. Hopefully it's tomorrow. But, you know, if it's not, he's just got to keep fighting and clawing to get back there. And his approach has been really good. So his teammates kind of rallied around him too, and I think it's just a matter of time. Man, easy today. Easy.